Hello again, and welcome to Sailboat Ads, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Thank you once again for joining me on my little excursion around the planet looking at sailboat ads. Today I'm going to go someplace completely new, Australia, which we have not been to yet. And I found some very interesting boats down there. I specifically sorted by the cheapest ones I could find to see if I could find any ugly ones. And mission accomplished. I definitely found an ugly, actually, I found several, but I picked one to pick on, which kind of isn't fair, but that's okay. Now, keep in mind the asking prices of these will be in Australian dollars, so we are going to multiply times 0.7, which gets us to US dollars. So, yeah, if it's 100,000, then it's 70K US. And let's dive right into it. So the first one I found here was this Wharram Tiki 30. And I've always been kind of fascinated with these. You don't see them really a lot in the United States. It's more of a Eastern Rim, Asian, and clearly, obviously here's one in Australia. They're not asking a tremendous amount of money for it. 32.5 multiplied times 0.7, it's sort of low 20s, $20,000 ish. And honestly, I think you're maybe overpaying at that. So description. The descriptions here are kind of interesting. This is a website called boatsales.com.au. And this actually has lots and lots and lots of information on it, but some of these don't have much at all. And the specification area is really poor. Says the boat is length in feet, length in meters, basic description, year, but there's no weight, there's no beam, there's no engine description or hours, number of cabins, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, and I'm not going to go through all this because this actually is a very long description. Professionally built by Duck Flat Wooden Boats. And a lot of these things I'm not going to be familiar with because, I don't live in Australia. Simple, capable cruising cat with shallow draft, good hulls, practical layout, low complexity. That is not an overstatement. Not being sold as a freshly commissioned sail-away boat. Leaf has been stored in the hard, priced realistically for recommissioning. Boy, that seems like a lot of money if you're going to have to put a bunch more into it. Right buyer should expect to clean, inspect, service systems, install the new tramps, and prepare her properly before sailing. Core value, 2 surveys. Not an amateur backyard build. That is very important. A lot of these boats were backyard builds, and some of them are good, and some of them are not good at all. Has a basic description of the interior. Engine is a 9.9 horsepower long shaft outboard with electric start and tilt. Not recently recommissioned and should be serviced before use. Now I'm going to have a comment here because I bought a boat in Southern California that had a 9.9 Suzuki that had not been run in 3 years, and I have spent an absolutely ridiculous amount of money. I was told by the mechanic it'd be $800 in 3 weeks, and it's now been 3 months, and I'm at $1,700. So this kind of thing, neglect on engines, will just absolutely kill you. And I'm assuming that this is, well, I know it's in a salty environment, so, and all this stuff, solar, lithium house batteries, blah, 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 all these should be checked before reliance. Yeah, should. Because I'll bet that a bunch of them are absolute junk. You're going to have to throw them out. Leaf suits a practical buyer, understands simple boats, wants professionally built. You got to kind of get your head around what these things look like. I'm not a big fan. I think they look really bizarre. Obviously, they've built this massive structure to expand the living space because there's not a heck of a lot of it inside. The hulls are relatively narrow, and as we're about to see, there's not a lot of room in there. But he does have a couple of surveys. Yeah, this looks like a canvas-covered over frame. This looks like it's probably aluminum or aluminium, and would provide nice protection. But a lot of this looks very tired for a 20-year-old boat. Here's your galley. It does not look like you could stand up in here. That would be very uncomfortable, I think. I think these hulls are not only narrow, but they're not very deep. So you're basically going to be crawling around everywhere. There's a lot of stains. There's a lot of just basic wear. I mean, it looks like the quality of the finish of the wood was once nice. There is your Yamaha outboard. It's interesting you didn't even mention that it's a Yamaha versus something, who knows. Roller furling jib. Here's where the outboard sticks down. Obviously, it can be lifted while you're sailing, which is nice. Another picture of the cockpit. Then we've got a series of pictures down below with some of their electronics. And this stuff looks like it's in decent enough shape, but if you dig into this, and if this stuff has not been properly maintained, chances are there's a lot of this that's going to need to be replaced or upgraded. Here we are sitting on some posts and strapped down with gigantic hunks of concrete. I'm guessing that is in anticipation of bad storms and hopefully not losing your boat to the wind. Here's one of those goofy folding dinghy things with the little bitty outboard there. It looks like it might actually be down. I mean, you can just tell this is a very cramped cruising proposition. Very, very little space in here. You're basically camping, sail camping, I think I call it. Does have remote electric start. That's nice. I'm going to guess that 10 horsepower is not enough to push this thing into bad seas and headwinds. My guess is you would be struggling. This probably really needs at least double that. It is only a 30-footer, but a lot of windage. So there is our Warram. First time I've actually reviewed one of these. I kind of like it. It's kind of cool. I think they're charging way too much. So the next one is something completely different, which really surprised me. Herreshoff, of course, is a very, very old American brand. And here we have one in Victoria, in the province of Victoria. Beautiful. Pretty sure this is a ketch. If the mizzen mast is in front of the rudder, it's a ketch, and if it's behind, it's a yawl, and I think it's just right there. So let's look at our description. Marlou is widely recognized as the first of the iconic Herreshoff design H28 ketches. There it says right there, to be built. So remarkable that this boat is in Australia, if it is truly the first ever of this particular design. And this is an old design, 1945. Full keel classic, renowned for the beautiful lines, sailing prowess in both light and heavy conditions. Marlou was launched in early 45, has enjoyed a long history of good maintenance. Down below, she has 2 decent settee berths, which convert to a full-width double. I don't think you can call these settee berths. We'll see that in a second. Galley area has a 2-burner metho stove with grill, stainless sink, pressurized water, 12-volt chest fridge. Up in the forecastle is a portaloo and storage for anchor, etc., plus a table which mounts in the saloon. She has low hours on her 3-cylinder Yanmar diesel. One has to presume that that was added much, much later in her very, very long life. 2 sets of sails, one of which is new. Inventory includes an autopilot sounder, VH radio, blah, 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 blah. Last slip for anti-fouling, February 23rd. Again, surprisingly little information here. I'd love to know what this boat weighs. I guess I could have Googled it. But let's look at some pictures. I mean, you can see right from the get-go, someone has very carefully and meticulously sanded and varnished all this exterior woodwork. And wooden spars, no less. Wow. That is not a maintenance nightmare I want to deal with. But holy cow, how beautiful. Interiors also very beautiful. These berths don't actually look quite long enough to actually sleep on. But it sounds like there's a drop in here and you actually completely fill this in, and then it looks like you've got a massive berth there. Some beautiful classic old bronze port lights that actually open on both sides. And like our Warram, this does not have standing headroom. My guess is you're about 5 feet here. You are definitely going to spend life hunched over. Here is your newer Yanmar engine, which looks in very nice condition. This also looks like it would be a newer fuel tank. I'm guessing that's fuel. That looks like a really old, a really old cooker that pulls out over the top of your sink, and here is your your galley space. Some of this is looking a little tired. Looks like it's got some stain there. The floor is not in the same condition that a lot of the rest of the woodwork is. There's a lot of woodwork on this thing, but look at the varnish on the mast post there. That is beautiful. Here's your swim ladder. There's your very old school looking anchor. See, this does not look to me like that, like a 6-foot person could lay down there. That looks like it's too skinny. Little riblets underneath your side decks probably help with the strength. This is so cute. These opening port lights with what looks like it could very well be an 80-year-old clock. Wonder if that works anymore. And a barometer. Can clearly see how the thing is built. And yeah, I'm going to zoom through these because there's a lot of details in here. But overall, and for 20,000 Australian, that's only 14 grand US. That just seems crazy. I mean, that engine, I don't even think it said what horsepower it was. It'd say 27. The engine's probably worth 5 grand. Anyhow, just stunning woodwork. You'd really have to decide that you wanted to sign up for this. Look at these doors and this paneling here. It's just awesome. Very, very nice. Having just done a bunch of woodwork myself, I can definitely appreciate the time, effort, and energy, and notice that there's no varnish on the top here. Someone very carefully taped that off. And some just Chamber of Commerce pictures here. Look at how beautiful that is in profile. Not sure I want to go cruising very far, but wow, what a boat. I like it. Then we have something completely different. Now, I'm a big fan of Richard Woods. Richard Woods is a designer that has designed dozens of boats, ranging from, I think his smallest ones are 10 or 12 feet, almost all multi-hulls. So he's got catamarans, trimarans. He designed a whole series of cruising catamarans, starting at about 22 all the way up to the high 30s. And I've actually never seen one that was actually finished and completed. So I was really excited to see this. This is his Banshee 35. They're asking a lot of money for this, $105,000. So what he did was he produced the plans, and he built 1 or 2 boats himself, just sort of a proof of concept. But the vast majority of these were either built by professional builders who may have built a series of them, or most of them are built by private individuals, and mostly out of plywood and epoxy. So kind of an interesting concept. This was built at Palamos Boatyard in England, number 7 of 14 built by them. So here's a professional boatyard that built a whole series of these, and I think the quality of construction you'll see is good. Below waterline, solid glass, waterline to deck. She is foam core sandwich. Deck is foam core, except for high stress areas where she is marine ply. Engine is a Yanmar 27 horsepower diesel outboard in the cockpit. Now that's something I've never seen before. I mean, diesel outboards are starting to come back, but this is an old one. Vessel was set up to do a full circumnavigation by previous owners. Very easy to sail short-handed, very capable. Standing and running rigging, replaced 2023 and anti-foul November 24. 2 new lithium house batteries. Let's see what she looks like. Some of these pictures aren't great. You can see her hulls are very fine entry. This does not look like very much room underneath your main deck. And my guess is if you were going into some solid wave action, that could be very unpleasant. It'd be loud and bumpy and yeah, probably not nice down below. Has obviously a wind turbine. Here's your radar arch. This definitely looks like it was set up for long distance cruising, which is kind of cool. Got some deck hatches. This feels like a lot of open space without anything to hang on to. You do notice that there appear to be, these look like deck boards. Just kind of an interesting concept. Probably helps it go to weather. There is your ground tackle. A couple of solar panels. Those really don't look like they'd be very much help if you were trying to charge up a full battery bank of lithium. Here's your Yanmar diesel. That definitely looks like an old timer. It says 27 horsepower in there. I think the biggest problem with this is it probably is loud as all get out. This thing would rattle and clatter and be right there in the cockpit with you. Now the interior finish of this is pretty darn nice. Older electronics, but looks like they're serviceable. I mean, here you have a giant table, easily could sit, 4, or 5 people around it. Space for another little seat there. Hard to judge if this has full standing headroom in the cabin. This is kind of like the Seawind design in that you go down into the hulls for your galley, which I think is a great idea in a smaller catamaran like this. So you've got a sink here, you've got your cooker. My guess is that you've got cold storage on one side or the other. Big berths. I mean, these berths look absolutely huge for 35. Here's your head with space forward. And, it's for hulls that looked like they were very fine entry. This actually looks like it has quite a bit of room. Not sure why we needed to include the photographer's feet, but that's weird. Here is your red room. Looks like some nice storage. And, not a lot of woodwork in here comparatively, but what is there looks like it's very nicely finished. I have struggled to figure out what this is. This is in the galley. Can't tell what that looks like. This looks like one of the smaller berths. Here's your galley again, and there's that funny thing. But clearly standing headroom in this space, and looks like it'd be really nice for 2 couples anyhow. I mean, I hate the what do they call this? A Pullman berth where the person on the, inside or outside, depending on how you look at it, has to crawl over their mate to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, which for me at my advanced years is a nightly occurrence. There's a nice little brochure. Anyhow, very cool design. This feels like an awful lot of money for a boat that is, coming up on 40 years old. And yeah, but cool design. Like it. So that's it for me for today. Reminder once again, my little book, Ripples in Time, is out. It's available on Amazon. It's actually available for free if you're one of those people that have the tablets and you're on their Prime program. But that is it. And thank you so much for joining me, and look forward to seeing you next week.